We're joined by Paul Jacobson, who is the Executive Vice President and CFO of GM. Paul, thank you so much for taking the time here with us today. Certainly do appreciate it this morning. Let's get right into it. In this earnings release, you mentioned that you're confident the company can hit its earnings targets despite the global semiconductor shortage we've seen rock the entire industry and some. How are you navigating this problem in the near term?
Well, hello, Brad, and thanks for having me today. It really is an outstanding day for General Motors and a testament to the teamwork and the leadership of the entire company across all of our divisions. And we're so thrilled with the results, even amidst the challenges that we're facing right now. And I think when you look at what the team was able to do in the first quarter and our plans for the rest of the year, really shows a really strong resolve to make sure that we hit our numbers and we continue to drive forward on our transformation journey.
Certainly. We're taking a look at shares over the past 24 hours, up by about 2.4% net. And so continuing to track the investor reaction, certainly here, we've also watched investors try to look into the future as best as possible. And if you can help us be kind of a fly on the wall in the meetings that take place at GM, especially considering some of the headwinds that we were mentioning, the broader industry is taking into consideration. GM was one of the companies in attendance at the White House Chips Summit. The reliance on TSMC has become evident. Since then, has there been any substantive movement, and what is the most likely outcome from your perspective, given the private-public conversations that are accelerating?
Well, what I would say is we're really taking this problem head on from all facets. This is a very global, complex supply chain that has many moving parts. It's not just one manufacturer, and it's not just one supplier that we have to work with. So what the team has really done is tried to work everything from every angle that we can. There's supply chain solutions, there's in-house engineering solutions, there's manufacturing solutions with our prioritization and what we're doing here. So we do see this as a short-term problem. There are longer-term implications that we've got to deal with, and we have time to do that. And as Mary has mentioned, and as she attended those White House meetings, it really is a function of looking at how do we deal with the here and now on the tactical side, as well as position ourselves strategically to make sure that we're successful in our transformation.
Dealing with the here and now, what is the best case scenario from a financial perspective for the company in getting some of the operations back online, running in full capacity, given the impacts that we had seen thus far?
Well, we certainly think that the second quarter, obviously from our guidance, is presenting probably a bigger challenge and what we hope to be and expect to be the peak of the challenge for the full year. All of this was baked into our expectations that we laid out back in February, and that's how we've been able to reaffirm our guidance again today. So as we work through this, the situation's really fluid. We literally are managing on a day-to-day basis as we figure out how to allocate chips into our highest in-demand vehicles so that we can be there for our customers. Because what our customers have proven is there's a lot of demand for our new vehicles, especially our full-size trucks and SUVs, and we're just delighted with that response, and we want to be able to make as many as we can.
Okay, so that's something I'm super excited about as well, as I know many of our viewers are too. You're heading into an all-electric future at GM. Last time we had on CEO Mary Barra, she was mentioning being in communication with the Biden administration on building a network of EV charging stations. Will Biden's promise to install 500,000 charging stations by 2030, will that be enough? And where do the private, public, GM, and Biden administration partnerships more broadly for the industry, where do you see those netting out in the future?
Well, we certainly think that charging networks are a big input in terms of getting adaptability from consumers and getting them more comfortable with the EV experience. They want to make sure that they're able to charge quickly and conveniently wherever they might be, whether it's on short-term journeys and they charge at their home, or they're on long-term road trips and long-distance road trips. So I think a network solution is critically important for us, and both working with the government in terms of the infrastructure, but also a number of different private parties where we're putting together our charging network that will make it convenient for all of our customers to find a location, as well as to pay for their charging through the GM app. And we just think it's imperative for us to make that as convenient as possible for our customers.
Something I geek out a little bit more than most perhaps is the insurance offering that you mentioned at the tail end of 2020. How have you seen that built out, considering the fact that this gives you more of an ecosystem to upsell some of the current GM owners further into building out that insurance arm through OnStar as well, and leveraging the data so that you can make some of these insurance policies and offerings available to existing GM owners, especially as we move towards a more electrified future. How have some of the early months been for that, and moving forward, how do you see this kind of rounding out this broader GM ecosystem too?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Brad, because I think it's just yet another example of the growth opportunities that GM is moving into. Historically, this was something that was viewed as outside the scope, but with the connected vehicles, with our OnStar platform, our vehicle data, as well as the direct customer relationships we have, we think this is an area where we can actually provide better service to the customer, whether it's in the origination process or even ultimately through the claims process. And they're off to a good start. We hope to be and plan to be registered in all 50 states. By the end of this year. So I would say they're getting off to a really good start, and a lot of exciting things to come in that space.
Paul, we didn't even get to talk about cruise automation. We've got to save something for our next conversation, though. Certainly appreciate the time here this morning. Paul Jacobson, who's the Executive Vice President and CFO of GM. Thanks again, and congrats on this most recent report that's come out.